Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Final Tackle podcast. And we're joined by, honestly, a legend of AFL. He had quite an illustrious career with the Brisbane Lions and the Gold Coast Suns. His name is Michael Rischitelli. Thank you very much for joining us. And how's your day been?
This episode is brought to you by our proud sponsor, Gold Coast Trading Cards. They are an authorized TLA trading card dealer, and they are the NRL collector's choice. Be sure to get all of your NRL trading card needs at Gold Coast Trading Cards.
Well, thanks for that. That was a lovely intro. Thanks for that. I can get used to it. It's been all right. As you just touched on before, just before we got going, we're in lockdown. So obviously it's almost like a topic of discussion lately. But on the Gold Coast we're in lockdown, but it's not too bad. We're just middle way through it. Not as bad as New South Wales, and hoping that we can get out of this whole lockdown debacle. But anyway, other than that, it's been all right.
Yeah, nice. Well, I mean, fingers crossed, because there's obviously not as many cases up there. So fingers crossed it can be done and dusted quick as. Right, let's get started about your career, your grassroots. Growing up, obviously, in I want to say Queensland. I'm probably wrong. But you grew up playing for the West. No, you didn't.
Western Jets, yeah, I did.
Yeah, okay, good,
Yes.
good. The Western Jets, and you ended up playing with them in the TAC Cup. What was it like? And also, what team did you follow as a kid?
I grew up in Melbourne, in St Albans. So when I was about, I think, 14 or so, I started to, I think about it now. Sometimes they used to give you letters. Used to come in the mail about that we're looking at you. For
This
that
is before
TAC
email
Cup
days.
competition, correct? So getting something in the mail was pretty exciting, and so I started my journey with the Jets. Before that, I played for Keilor.
Mm-hmm.
Great club, great footy club. So it all started from pretty much then. When I was about 14, I thought, I feel pretty good. I knew I was good, but there's a big difference between actually thinking that you can, possibly make it, which is, there's so many other kids, thousands of other kids in the same position that would love to be able to make the AFL. So, played all my junior footy Keilor, and then, moved on to the Western Jets. So that was a good experience, before obviously getting drafted.
Yep.
And from there on, then I didn't play many games. In my last year, which was when I was 17, I didn't play many games, for the Jets at all. So I had, back then they called it osteo's pubis, which is pretty much just another term for sore groins. And I must have played one or two really, really good games for recruiters to see. So I wasn't really expecting to play. I felt that leading up to that year, doing a preseason, let alone playing any more footy for the Jets. So I think I only played about 8 games or 10 games.
Yep.
So I was going to have a really good year the next year after that. I was going to go, okay. So
you were going to really push for the draft the following year, like to get into the draft camp.
Yeah, so I wasn't going to worry about it too much. And I've told this story before, but I was actually at my school social the night before AFL draft. I didn't really think much of it. I didn't watch it. So the night before, I was the next morning, I can't remember what time it was on, but I was still in bed by that stage. So it's actually my dad. So it's a funny story. My dad actually told me that I've been drafted.
Wow.
So I didn't believe it first, but after hopping out of the bed, it was pretty obvious when I got to the screen that I was last pick, number 61, and that was down to the line. So yeah, it was a funny weird time. It was very surreal. Couldn't quite believe it. But
how quick was it from? Sorry to interrupt. Like, how quick was it from obviously the day or morning of you found out you drafted to going up to Brisbane and all that sort of stuff?
DROM Clothing. They are a clothing store company based in Woy Woy, New South Wales, Australia. But guess what? They ship Australia-wide. They have a great range of winter clothing with their current winter drop happening at the moment. So be sure to go through DROM. Tell them CJ sent you from the Final Tackle podcast. Also, we have discount codes dropping soon, so be sure to keep an eye out on our Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, it was pretty quick. I just remember, distinctly that when straight away when I seen it on the screen, the phone started to ring. Probably the 3210 back in the day then. Or was it 5110? Maybe one of them.
Something like
but yeah, it was about 2 weeks. So
Okay.
it was okay. Like, I had a bit of time to prepare and get through some, going away parties and just meeting some family and, saying my goodbyes, which was a little bit sad, but
Well, especially because it wasn't
no.
a Melbourne-based club; it was a whole like 2 states away sort of thing.
No, well, and I think at the time you have to remember that the Lions at the time they were going, they were 1, 2, 3, winning the premiership. So going into that year, they were going to be, going for their 4th. So it's probably the best club to go to.
Oh, absolutely.
At the time, so and I always didn't really care where I went. I mean, I was happy to go anywhere.
Yeah, as long as you got to play.
As long as I got an opportunity to play and just having that dream come true, I didn't really care. So it was probably a little bit hard for my parents, especially my mum, to see a young Italian boy going away from Melbourne and going up to Brisbane. That was probably hard for them. But at the time, I was just thinking about how good is this. Excited, and not knowing what to expect. So that was.
So just trust the process and go with the flow, sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just go with it. When you're 17, you just, in my case, I was just happy to play footy and, but I was going to really have a good dip the next year after that. But it turns out that I was a little bit fortunate, a little bit lucky in that sense to get picked up, earlier. So it was, it was a bit of a whirlwind in that 24 hours of, going from the school social to the next day, waking up out of bed. So it was actually, it was quite surreal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can absolutely understand that. Pardon me. You then obviously made your debut the following year because you were drafted in 2003.
Yep.
You played in round 17, 2004 against Adelaide, which is a history-making game for the Brisbane Lions itself. They scored like 21 goals. It was like the highest scoring game for Brisbane ever. And you were part of that game, especially in your debut. What was it like the week leading up to your debut, like finding out from the coach, right, you're getting your start and everything leading up to it?
Yeah, well, this is another story or funny story that I didn't know I was going to be playing on that day. So I was going to be playing the Resis in the morning. So what happens is, for the Resis, you play in the morning and the seniors play in the afternoon or that night. So I was preparing to play that morning, afternoon. It was a night game. I remember this, that we were playing Adelaide, but I got a call on the day of there was a Saturday. It's telling me, I think it was Lee at the time, that says that I'm going to be playing that night against Adelaide, which, you see the phone, the number comes through your phone. Lee, it could only mean, one or two things. One, that, there's something happening or I've done something wrong. So I'm glad he actually said that I was going to be playing. And I only got to play because Sean Hart at the time had a migraine. Mm-hmm. So he pulled out, so he couldn't play. So at the time, I was playing okay footy in the Resis. I wasn't dominating or anything, but I was just, slowly improving. I think what got me over the line in the end was just my tackling pressure. So I wasn't getting, near enough of the ball, but my defensive skills are pretty good. So leading up to that, I didn't have much time to prepare for the game that night, but which is good because I didn't have to overthink it. So the club at the time, the welfare, Shane Johnson, Craig Lammett, they were in charge and helping me with. Obviously, they were just going to get my parents over to fly from Melbourne, so it all happened pretty quick. So by the time my parents from Melbourne, they got the flights, booked the flights to the start.
All in the one day.
All in one day.
Wow.
Started the bounce. They got to the Gabba. They got to the top tier, walked down, and the board bounced. Oh. So they just managed to get there just in time. So
how good?
Which was good. So they actually got to see my first game.
Wow.
The circumstances being really, really short.
Yeah.
But it turns out, at the time that did really well against Adelaide. I happened to kick 2 goals. I didn't touch it pretty much for the first half. And Lethal told me at halftime, "Don't be a spectator." I was just too worried about getting in front of Bradshaw, John Brown, Alistair Lynch. So I was actually
like stepping on their toes on the field, sort of thing.
Yeah, no, you don't want that. So I was, 18, so I was petrified. But yeah, so I just got some good advice from Lee at the time, and then he just said, go get the ball. So a couple of tackles later and a couple of goals, I thought it's not too bad actually. This AFL,
Yep.
and everyone was at the time in their peak, so it just made my job so much easier.
Oh, absolutely.
So that was that was a good debut for myself. But not all games go that, as we know.
No, that's very true. That's very, very true. And the 06 season was during your time at Brisbane, your standout season, from what I can gather. What was it like the whole season? Obviously, Brisbane didn't make the grand final or anything, but I'm just saying, like, that season for you individually was your best season, while you were, for Brisbane at least. Do you have any sort of memories of that season, and maybe things you did differently that season that attributed to it being your best season while you were at Brisbane?
At the time, you just gotta remember the time when you get to when it was in 04, all the guys were really, really in their peaks, and they were going for their fourth grand final. So that was 04.
Yep.
So the opportunities weren't there for me anyway. I wasn't already developed, so I was a little bit skinny. I had to work on my endurance. So all this stuff in the background, I knew I had to work on. But I think I played one game my first year, maybe 2 or 3 in the second, maybe. But in the third year, a couple of gaps opened up, and by that stage, there's about three pre-seasons under my belt, and feeling like that this is probably a time where I can have a little bit more opportunity. But just seeing where I'm at, and I felt like just on the back of all the work, week to week, and sitting down, doing your tapes, learning off the best, asking questions, that I was able to put together some okay footy, and just playing week in and week out was probably the year that I could set myself up and understand what it takes to play week to week consistent. So that was probably a good year for myself, but it didn't end up going like that for the remainder of my career. There's a few more ups and downs, but that was probably the start of getting a taste of traveling, away, playing at home, different times. That's when you actually felt like, okay, this is where this is what AFL was like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Honestly, that's great to hear. And early on, before you actually made your move to the Gold Coast Suns, there was actually a bit of a debacle, for lack of a better term. There was talk of you and Bradshaw being traded to Carlton in favour of Favola going up to Brisbane, but you were adamant, basically, from lack of a better term, for what I could found out. You were like, no, I'd like to stay at Brisbane, and so obviously it folded. But we do know that later on, Favola did go to Brisbane. But what was that time like for you personally, finding out, just everything sort of going on around that sort of stuff?
Yeah, it's not, I mean, everyone that plays footy knows that, you just want to be able to stay at the one club. You want to be able to play as long as you can at that club. And as footy can be, it can be a little bit unpredictable. Footy clubs have to make decisions about what's going to be best for the footy club. So a lot of the time you hear about the individual is not as big. The club's bigger than the individual. So obviously you're going to be shattered and upset. At the time, I remember it wasn't something that I was happy about, and I don't think anyone would be happy about it. But
no, of course not.
In footy, what footy does, it makes you understand that, hey, listen, there's a bit of a roadblock, there's a bit of a wall. You got to be able to learn how to get around it, or you just jump over it. So that sort of prepares you for things like this, and you just got to be able to work a way around it. But at the time, I felt like I still had another year. I didn't feel like I wanted to go at that time. I was still contracted for another year. So as much as the club at the time did it in the right way, I wasn't ready to leave, so I didn't leave. I knew that I still had another year, and then I'll make the decision about moving if I had to at the time. And I just thought, okay, leading to the 2010 season, that I was going to give it a real hot crack.
Yeah, nice. And that's fair enough. I appreciate you talking so candidly about that, because obviously as you said, no player wants to be traded or moved on, because as you said, every player wants to be a one club player as best as they can. But you did go on and moved on to Gold Coast Suns eventually, being part of their inaugural team in 2011. And you saw out the rest of your career. I think it was 8 or 9 great and long seasons with the Gold Coast. You managed to rack up quite a few individual achievements there. First of all, what was the change like, or the sea change going from? I mean, it's only an hour and a half down the road, but from Brisbane to the Gold Coast. What was it like moving to the Gold Coast? The atmosphere, the club, being at a brand new, established type club.
Yeah, it was different. It was very different. And I suppose, like anything that starts or it's brand new, there's going to be some teething issues. So there was definitely some teething issues, starting out. There was no real facilities set up for the elite environment. So that was probably the first point that's very noticeable. And just with a lot of support staff, there probably wasn't enough or near enough to what it is now. Mm-hmm. So there's all of these little things. But one of the things that I was, excited about was, being a part of something new, and from the start and the beginning. And because the Gold Coast is something that it's a huge part of a sporting ability for people all over the world that come in and do marathons and all this sort of stuff. So it's pretty well known. And at the time, there was a lot of talk about getting another footy club in the AFL. And I feel like it's been good for the Gold Coast. But like most things, you have to win. You have to keep the support there when you win. So it's been a little bit tough over the last decade. But hopefully we can. See a little bit more W's for the Suns, and see, start to climb the ladder a bit. But they're probably the few things that I, was really excited about. So that, I'll always be a part of, starting something from the ground up.
Oh, absolutely. And not many people or many, professional sports stars can say that they, were part of an inaugural team, which is so amazing to add on the resume.
Yeah.
And obviously, the Lions in the 2021 season, thought we might dabble in that very briefly.
Mm-hmm.
As in to tangent away from the career for a little bit. The 2021 season of the Suns so far and of the Lions so far, where do you think, or how do you think both of those clubs have gone so far this season, and how do you think maybe each club can improve for next year, in general?
Well, let's start with the Lions have been going pretty good.
Yeah,
they've probably shown the last 4 or 5 years that they've had a good solid core group together. Now, probably a little bit longer, but I think they're in a pretty good place. But like most, if not all footy clubs, it's never enough. So the Lions at the moment, they've had a couple of little losses, which they'd probably like to have won them, but I feel like they're at a point in their club where they'll be pushing for the GF. It's a matter of on the day itself they've got the capabilities for it. It's just whether or not on the day that they're going to be able to produce. And they've got a couple men down, but I still feel like they've got other guys that can contribute and do very well. So it's I feel like it's probably their time. If anything, the next couple of years, I reckon they've got a good crack at it this year.
Yep.
As we move to the Suns, it's a little bit of a different story, as we know. They've had a few, had some injuries, but also their form's been it's been a bit shocking, up and down. They've had some really good wins too along the way.
Oh, they have. They've
had some really good wins, showing some good growth. And unfortunately, the last few weeks, it's probably gone back down a little bit. Probably for a number of reasons, whether it's due to form and plays or I'm not quite sure. I haven't been there for a few years, so it just looks like they're struggling a little bit in that department. But who knows what's going to eventuate in the next sort of few weeks, months. There's a lot of speculation about what's going on with the Suns. But one of the things that a lot of the negativity can take away is you just got to win games. I've said this before. It's as easy as that. You just got to be able to win, and all that sort of stuff will go away. But I'm sure that's what they're trying to do, but it's not quite working. So they're going to have to figure out other ways to be able to get back up and start winning.
Yeah, that's honestly a great analogy, and honestly, I absolutely agree with that as well. You spent quite a long time in the AFL, 13 to 14 years, maybe even longer, 16 if you technically count the draft, 03 to 2019. How was the transition into retirement for you?
It's been okay. Like the first had a good few months break, which was good because it can be very, very repetitive and mentally challenging the longer that you're in it. So the first few months, 3 or 4 months, I was just happy to just spend some time with the family and just relax, switch off, don't have to think about anything. But after a while, I was really keen to get back and do some stuff. So I finished up. I was looking at doing some stuff in footy still, but there wasn't much on. So I decided to do some real estate.
Oh, nice.
Did that for about 6-8 months, but it wasn't something that I enjoyed. So I'm at the process now where I'm still, figuring out what I'm going to do. But I have gone back and did some studying, doing some finance. Yep. Just finishing off my diploma in finance and mortgage broking, doing a bit of work with finance company. So, I'm starting to put a few things together. I've actually just started a business as well called Player Path that's going to help athletes in all different sports with the transitioning part. So there's going to be a lot of data that's going to...
like the pathway to retirement or the pathway to the sport professional?
Well, it's going to be both. So once you're entering the system, it's going to have, a lot of compliance stuff that you're going to need once you finish. So it's going to be a platform. We're going to be teaming up with AIS, which is going to be good. But that's something in the background that I've been working on with a mate of mine, Sam Cohen.
Yep.
So that's something that I'm really passionate about, sort of developing the welfare of players and athletes.
Oh, absolutely.
Because as we know, it's huge. Not only in the athlete sort of world, in society, it's huge. So I suppose that's what I've learned in my footy, my journey over the years. I'm going to hope that, can sort of do something in that sort of field, in that area that can really help.
That basically everything about it, or sort of thing firsthand.
Yeah, and what they're going to go through, and what they're going to experience, and ups and downs, and form, and overthinking, and so all these things that you don't realise until you're actually in such a pressure elite environment. So that's something that's going to be working in the background. I'm pretty excited about it because it could be anything, but it's just really going to be purely about the athlete. So, and not just for footy or so it's going to be sort of broad range.
For the individual professional athlete,
or it's going to if it's an individual, this is going to be a tool that hopefully it's going to be able to help people. So, so it's pretty exciting. But the future, I'm not too sure what the future holds. But for now, it's more just finding my way. There's a lot of things that when the transitioning side of things is. Because I'm pretty much going back on 18, 19, so I've got to figure out exactly what that looks like, what am I going to enjoy. But it'll take a little bit of time, but it's all pretty good.
Yeah, nice. Going to some fun questions during your career. Who was the biggest pest at each club that you played at?
The biggest pest that when I was at the Lions, no doubt, was clearly Cheney Stiller. A good mate of mine I still talk to now. Just one of those guys that we always used to go out and always used to be by my side. Just talk too much, always wanting to know everything. And we actually used to be really good doing gym together. So we always used to partner up and try and push each other. So that's probably where a little bit of the banter come by, and who lifted weights heavier at the time and who did more chin-ups. So, really good mate of mine that we still keep in contact today. The other one for the Suns as a pest, probably have to be. This guy Luke Russell was pretty bit of a pest, but also really funny dude, really funny guy. Always got the boys up. Alongside with Tom Nichols. Tom Nichols is one that was very got up to a lot of mischief. But I'll probably say those two, the Suns, really good guys too. And that which made the place at the time feel a little bit more brighter. Obviously getting getting some heavy defeats, and the last thing you want to do is come into an environment where it's walking on eggshells, and those guys help that immensely.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And And obviously, speaking of, funny times and all that, is there any sledge that you heard on the field? Obviously, that you could, is safe for the podcast to speak. And what was it, if you can remember, the funniest sledge?
I didn't really get too many funny sledges. Like I wasn't one to give sledges or for whatever the reason is. I haven't really been around sledges, so off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything on the top of my head, but there's obviously been other guys that have said a few things along the way that for whatever reasons they seem to be able to think of something really, really quick. But I was always a player that just didn't really want to speak to any players or didn't really say much, give much lip. I was just more about just trying to get the job done
Give nothing away.
And that was about it. So I was pretty basic, really. So I didn't really like to give too much lip because, as we know, footy can change quickly. You give a bit of lip and next minute your opponent's kicked a couple of goals on you. It's going to be a long night. So, so I can't give you anything, sorry. But
no, that's fine. Yeah, like as you said, you'd rather let your actions speak louder than any type of words, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Some guys are really good at it.
Yeah, I've heard some from players that I've interviewed, and I'm like, fuck. Which team did you follow growing up?
Yeah, stay away. Just get the job done and get out.
Right. Which team did you follow growing up?
Essendon. I was a mad Essendon supporter.
Okay.
My dad, all my family voted for Essendon back in the day. They probably still do now, I'm not sure. But a favourite player was Gavin Wanganeen. I used to love Gavin Wanganeen.
What a weapon he was.
Yeah, he
played against
him.
I'm guessing.
But yeah, I think I played against him. Yeah. Well, when did he retire for?
I think he retired 04-05. I know he won the grand final with Port that year.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I played against him actually. I'll have to check that one up actually. But yeah, I really enjoyed watching him. Like, wasn't a huge player, huge present, but just the way that he went about it. Very clean and always looked after the ball. Was always the one that I thought in my eyes that was giving his all. And he hasn't really changed a bit. I've seen him on TV. He doesn't look like he's aged a bit. Right. So
he's got the
I don't know what he's doing. So he must be doing something. But no, Essendon was always got Essendon. So it was. I was a bit shattered actually. In '99, actually went to the game in MCG against Carlton. Took the tram there with the next door neighbour. Yeah, shattered, absolutely shattered. On the way there, was excited and watched the game. And the last piece of play.
Yep.
I was pretty young at that stage, and getting the tram back home, probably one of the more saddest days in my life. As it probably was back, a lot of people on that day. But that's just the way it is. It was a good day.
Absolutely.
What about you? Who do you go for?
I was going to say, you're talking to a Collingwood fan, so I definitely know the heartbreak of grand finals 02-03, 2018. Yeah, not a good time.
Oh, mate, they come and go.
No, that's it.
That's it. Go. It's part of it. It's what it is.
That's what makes sport exciting. It's part of what makes it exciting to watch it, play it. Love it, everything. Who is your toughest opponent individually to go up against, like whether it's mentally or physically? And who was the toughest club to go up against?
I remember playing on actually. I played on 5. Not probably a few years before I retired. Mm-hmm. He was pretty. He was hard because he was just because he was tall and big and strong. So even if you were able to play tight on him and tackle him, he was still able to get that handball away. He's obviously a beast runner, so they've been trying to be able to stop his run because he's that powerful. When you think you've got him, but he's just a foot tall, so 5's probably the one that in my time that he was pretty hard to match up on.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I also played on Goodwin when I was in my early days as well.
Yeah, that would have been hard.
Yeah, he was a bit of a gut runner, and that was probably the first time that I realised that this is what it's all about. So it's I thought I was relatively pretty fit when I was younger, but there's just a different type of runner when you're after many seasons in the AFL and doing a lot of pre-seasons that you build up your engine, and there's a real difference between being a really good runner and then being a gut runner. I think Goodwin was a gut runner.
Absolutely. And what team in particular, if there was a team that, either you hated going up against or was just you knew you were in for a tough game?
Nothing that comes to mind, but for some reason, just the Bulldogs in their time, in their peak, they were pretty challenging, pretty difficult because they had a lot of good runners.
Like 2015, 2016 Bulldogs.
Yeah, and they had some really good ball users as well. So any time that you were to fumble or miss kick and transition over, you'd bring your runners because there's a lot of guys that could run, and made sure that leading up to it that you had a few gatos before, because you knew if you didn't hit your target and if you didn't do things well, then they were going to make you pay. And I reckon for a few years there, they were probably above everyone in that department. Especially in 16 when
absolutely
they were flying and they just could not put a foot wrong, and it just seemed like they had 19 people on the ground at one stage because they just congregated and they were everywhere. So they were good to watch, really good to watch.
Oh, that 2016 year, absolutely.
Yeah, and they just kept winning and they going from different states and. But no, probably the Bulldogs. And every team's really hard to win. Like every game is so difficult to win because you're either carrying something, or the team's just that far better in form. You're playing away, but there's just so many things now that you just got to be able to find a way. And the team that finds the way every week is they're the ones that can get to September.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of September,
who
do you think is going to be in the grand final? It's a bold prediction to say now, but who do you think is going to be in the grand final this year?
Sure. I feel like Geelong is just always they've been thereabouts all last 10 years. I feel like they're just always there. I don't think they have, they don't have, I think, like superstars in their team, but they've got a lot of really good players, a lot of really good, reliable players that don't make any mistakes.
Absolutely.
So I've got a feeling that Geelong is probably going to be the one that will make it. Who will they play? I'm not sure. Bulldogs. The Bulldogs are looking really good this year as well.
Yeah.
If it was, if Geelong was a Bulldogs game, I think that'll be, a top grand final.
I think that'd be great to see.
What about you? What do you think?
I was gonna say, well, I mean, I'm sorry to anyone who's listening to this. I'm gonna write off the D's. They've had a great season. I will definitely not deny that they've not had an outstanding season, but they won't make the grand final.
I'm not sure.
I mean, although if they have like the dream run of finals, anything can happen. But I don't think it will for them. I'm more or less siding with your view. Yeah, I reckon Geelong. If Geelong don't make it, they'll get out in the prelim. Like they'll do that well in the finals at least.
Yeah.
And maybe the Dogs.
No, the Dogs. They look alright. They
do.
Who knows? Yeah. The D's look alright too. I think it's just with the finals, you just got to be able to get your good form in the final. That's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
The D's now have had a couple of losses. That's all right. You probably prefer to lose now than lose in the finals. So
exactly,
probably a good way of doing it. So when you're hot, you're hot, and it just seems like the D's when they're hot. No one can go with them.
No one can beat them. Exactly.
They're probably the top three. I feel like.
The Lions, I'd agree with those three. Yeah.
The Lions are a chance, but I feel like they're going to have to really push.
Absolutely. Like they're good, and like with the D's, on their day they can beat anyone.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of, I think the D's, in all honesty, if we're talking, in my opinion, logic, the D's are closer to the grand final this year than the Lions.
Yeah. From now, I reckon. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right on. They've had a good. Early in the year, they were
11 in a row, wasn't it?
11 in a row. So they'd probably hit a bit of a lower, but.
Well, that's allowed when you go 11 in a row.
Not now, but they'll probably come good now. You're fine, in the next block. And who knows? It's a funny thing, though. You just never know. I feel like that it could be anyone's. It could be anyone's.
Exactly. Like you could have the best home and away season and then go out in straight sets in the finals.
But you're right. But by form, you probably got the moment for form-wise is Bulldogs and Geelong at the moment.
And if it's not Bulldogs, it's D's. Yeah, it's D's and Geelong if it's not Bulldogs.
D's aren't, I think, far away. They're probably just starting to gear up now.
Oh, absolutely. Just trying to see if there's anything else on the list. Trade, move to Suns, spend all the team. Lions season, Suns season, transition into retirement. Doing now, kind of covered that anyway. Who was your hero / idol of AFL growing up? As you said, Gavin Wanganeen was a big influence. Would you say it was Wanganeen?
I didn't really have like an idol. Like I just knew that being able to play footy. So I'd probably say the idol part was probably just,
everything about
every week, just looking forward to a game. But just seeing, I remember when I was younger, just seeing an AFL player, that was amazing, and that was something that I'm like, well, imagine what it would be like to play AFL and be what you have to do and like what's your life like. So I had no idea, but probably a big influence in my career definitely was my dad, because he used to play for Moonee Valley in the EDFL, and so from all reports he wasn't a bad player. So any chance that I got, go for a kick with him. And, he obviously gave me some good points on what to look out for and what not to do. And he always used to rate my games. And, I remember having some really good games. I thought when I was younger, and get in the car and expecting Dad to go, you played really well today. And he'd go on completely the opposite, telling me how shit I went. Telling me that third quarter was like piss poor. But then other times I thought like I didn't do really well. He'd be like, we actually did pretty well today. Some of your things, when you looked inside into that person's eye, he was a really good influence on me to be able to just get some really good pointers and help me get the best out of myself with footy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you follow any other sports other than AFL growing up, or even nowadays?
Nah, not really. Like I'm not a real big. I know a lot of footy boys love their NFL and basketball, but for whatever reason I didn't really enjoy or watching that sort of stuff. But I did do a little bit of karate when I was younger. Mm-hmm. I used to love all the blood sports and kickboxers and karate,
UFC,
and
all that sort of stuff.
All the old school films, I used to love them.
Yep.
So I just
Bloodsport is a peak.
Bloodsport,
love that film.
All the Rambo films. I thought I was an action hero when I was younger, but I had
right.
But yeah, I did that. I don't know. I actually didn't mind. I think I played a little bit indoor soccer when I was younger. Didn't mind soccer. But yeah, even in summer, I didn't really play cricket. It was more just footy.
Yeah, fair.
So I didn't go from. Yeah, I didn't really play cricket in summer. I was just playing footy. So I didn't enjoy cricket. I just liked footy. It just brought so much joy from footy. Coming home from school, there was no one to play with, so I just try and kick the footy between these two big trees at the front of my place.
Yeah, nice.
No one around, break a couple of windows, but as you do, and then you run and piss bolt, somewhere in the corner and wait for the old man to come home.
Yep.
But no, I don't mind watching a little bit of, NFL every now and then, basketball.
But it's not on your to watch list sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I don't go out of my way, but I still watch a little. I still watch footy now, so I still feel like footy's a good sport.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And speaking of your to watch list, lockdown last year, the big one, the 10-15 week lockdown. What was your Netflix binge?
What did I watch? I think I watched. Well, the whole lockdown thing was because I'm on the coast. It wasn't really a lockdown, but I was watching a lot of the, the Narcoses and that, all those wannabe gangster movies that I thought was something that I lived my life like, but nowhere near it. But yeah, I just watched whatever's apparent on the time of the evening, I suppose, and a few boys would be watching, whatever they were watching, I would just sort of tag along and watch. So I didn't really go away, but I like documentaries. I like about things that are happening, what's real. I'm very intrigued by the way the world works, and there's a few things in this world that is very, very different to what the people think. All those things about the politics of the world, I suppose, when you look at it. how things work. So that's probably what I don't really like watching those things that aren't really real and whatnot.
I'm a big fan of docos.
The wife tries and what. Yeah, the wife tries to make me watch all these flicks and that, but I can't do it because it's not something that I can resonate with.
Unless it's based on true events or something, then it's like, nah, it's a no for me sort of thing.
Yeah, thanks for no thanks.
Yeah.
But so what about
back in the day as a kid? Yeah, let's watch action movies for days. As an adult,
yeah, I could. Well, that's the thing. All the new stuff coming out, I'd be happy enough just to watch Kickboxers, Karate Kids, Beverly Hills Cop.
Yep.
Or I can watch them.
Have you watched Cobra Kai on Netflix because of Karate Kid?
Cobra Kai, watch Cobra Kai. Yeah, I could just sit back and watch all those ones. Go back to the 80s and that, and I'm done. So, but there's some really, really good movies that I still watch now. And the wife hates me because I just watch all the old school flicks and.
They're trash nowadays, but they're gold because I love them too, mate. I'm a sucker for Rambo and all those movies, mate.
I love them, mate. I can't get enough of them. So it all started when I was really, really young. I used to watch all these flicks, old school flicks, and Over the Top. Now I'm a massive fan of Over the Top.
Schwarzenegger, yep.
Sly, mate. Unbelievable movie that is.
When they made the Expendables series, I was like, oh, yes, like all of them from those movies in the 80s and 90s in one movie.
Oh, Van Damme. I'll tell you what I did the other night.
Yeah.
My Insta's been hacked, would you believe it?
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, some knuckleheads just decided to jump on, and so I can't really get back to my Insta. But before that, I actually was getting whispered that Van Damme was going to be buying. The wife told me that Van Damme was going to be buying on the Gold Coast. And I'm like, you know what?
Real estate agent.
Yeah, I never do this. So I've never done it before. So I got onto his Insta.
Yeah.
And I just flicked him a text, mate, and said, welcome you with open arms. Love to have you on the Gold Coast. And then, so I don't know now if he would have replied back because my Insta got hacked.
Oh.
So I was definitely going to get a reply.
Yeah.
Without it.
Absolutely.
But, I was shattered, mate. So just kill me that this guy has just hacked my Insta.
Well, if there's anyone out there that can help Rischitelli get his Instagram account.
Someone out there, one of your viewers that can help me with some tweet that has somehow got access to my Insta, help me because I don't know how to get it back. I've tried to record, but
hit up Risky on LinkedIn or Twitter or anything. Hit him up. Yeah, I'll put the links to everything.
Because I want to.
You want to find out if Van Damme is coming?
Yeah, I've got all the photos and the family now. That's huge. I need them back, but I also want to know if Van Damme's text me back.
That's the real priority.
So that'd be a big help.
Oh, absolutely. Anyone who's out there when this episode drops, hit me up in the DMs and I'll get you guys to contact Rischitelli. That'd be absolutely amazing. What else was I going to say? So obviously, a lot of players have routines or rituals pre-game. Did you have any certain rituals or routines pre-game?
Not really. Only thing I used to do was just take a few minutes to sit down, take some deep breaths. That was something that I always wanted to do. I did. I always used to put different socks on, and so I didn't really have.
That put the sock on and then the boot on sort of.
Nah, not really. I didn't really have. I didn't want to be too superstitious because if something would have happened and I didn't get it done, I would have been thinking about it all game. So I was pretty relaxed about it as long as I just had a bit of time to take 3 or 4 minutes in before we go out and run on. I was happy with that.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Because there's other guys that have so many different rituals and just find that makes it work, which is great. And you sort of learn differently when you go up and what works for you, which is great. But for me, it was pretty just relaxed and not thinking about it too much.
As you said, you're an action movie fan. You don't really follow too many other sports. A lot of high-profile, intense athletes, they get away, during the week and they play around the golf or they go fishing. What was your escape from footy during the week-to-week, intensity of being an AFL player?
Well, before I had kids, so I've got an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. Mm-hmm. Before I had kids, when I was in Brisbane and I had a couple of years on the Gold Coast. I remember buying my first property in Brisbane. I was about 21, 22. I didn't have any furniture in the house. I had, I think, a beanbag, and I thought it was a great idea to go and get a German Shepherd pup. I've always been a big fan of German Shepherds. Yep. Starting back on the move from Canine. So that was another thing too. I used to love my German Shepherd. So I've actually still got her today. She's almost 15.
Oh, wow.
So she's still with us. So she's been a big part of my life. So that was really exciting. Always just to be able to go out. That was a bit of my release, take to the park or take to the beach. Used to drive up to the Spit on the Goldie.
Yeah, I know the Spit. Yeah, that's a lovely place.
So always used to take him there whenever I could. So that took up a lot of time, which was good for me because to be able to get out, take the dog park, meet different people.
Yep.
And I also had a bull mastiff with me as well that crossed Ridgeback. She was really good. I thought that after 6 months. Yeah, she was really, really good. But she didn't last that long, only about 9 years until I had to put her down. So that was pretty sad. But
those 9 years though would have been amazing.
Yeah, she was a beautiful dog. Like I'm a bit of a dog lover. So I've got another one actually that I've just a couple of years on, another bull mastiff cross Ridgie. So she's a different colour. The one I had was black. This one's that sort of tanny.
Yeah, the
colour. So they're very they're very loyal. They're very relaxed, and they just want cuddles. And so
they get along well with the kids.
Yeah, get really well with the kids. Just sometimes she just gets too excited and because she's so hard. She's really hard. The dogs are really hard and just but so playful and can be gentle. But
they don't know their own sometimes.
Yeah, they're just there's something about them. They just bring you up. But then and then when I had the kids, obviously a lot of time was just great being able to spend time with the kids. So I had a couple of outings there, which is really good. And nothing, I don't know. I'm not a real big fan of golf. For whatever reason, I'm not really good at anything else besides footy. But I've played golf a little bit.
I'm shocking at golf.
But I just love the way that they hit it, but I can't seem to hit it. And that sound that you hear as soon as you know it's a good drive.
That's
unbelievable. But who knows? I might take it up soon. I suppose I've got to do something else.
Yeah, nice. But the Spit, man, that takes back memories because I was living on the Gold Coast a few years ago before COVID, like 2016, 2017.
Oh, yeah.
And there was that petition, to save the Spit and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping, because as I said, I moved back down 2019. Did the Spit get saved? It's not been developed on?
I think that's still there, but there's always talk of the casinos and whatnot to try and bring in, extra, as you said, I'm not sure about COVID now, what's happening, but from more reports, I don't think anything's going on.
No, that's good. I used to love going there. It's a great spot.
It is really nice, but what I've found over the years, though, is the dog parks and whatnot, it becomes really political with your dog, and so I had to really back off because there's all these airheads that always had an issue with dogs, and where I used to go to take the dogs when I had the German Shepherd and the Bull Mastiff, there used to be this. They used to call them the Maltese Mafia group. These old ladies that used to come with their chairs and whatnot. So they used to just park their chair and have all these little Maltese white things, fluffy things that used to come up and start the fight. Used to yap at all these other dogs.
Yeah.
And as soon as my dogs come, they just pop out the car and they fly past, and you just hear the Maltese Mafia crew. So it just became a little bit too much for all these whinging, and so I just thought, look at this, it's probably not worth it in the end. So
take it to another park. Like there's a lovely park at Oxenford on the Goldie, with like a nice little I don't know exactly where in Oxenford because I used to live near there, but it's kind of like it's not Oxenford, like it's just down the road a bit. It's literally halfway between Coomera and Oxenford. It's got a nice little like path. It's got a dog park there as well. Got a nice little it's really nice. Got a nice little lake. Man-made lake there as well. Like if you that's an idea. It's probably a bit of a drive depending where you are on the Goldie because Oxenford's like up north on the Goldie, but it's
I'm in Burleigh, so there's a few parks.
That's quite a far drive for you then.
Yeah, it's if my wife's parents in Brisbane, so you can always stop there for a little bit. But there's a couple of good dog parks here. There's actually really good on as for the smaller dog parks, the group, and for the bigger dog parks. So you've got different sized dogs, so there's no issues there. But there's some nice parks around here in the Goldie.
The parks, honestly, on the Goldie and Brizzy are tenfold better than any parks, whether it's dog parks or not. Like, kids play equipment parks. Just better parks that I've up on the Goldie and Brizzy than anywhere I've been, honestly.
Yeah, they're pretty, because obviously the climate allows for you to go out. So they probably put a little bit more effort into it. Obviously, in other areas that the weather's not
not
like the Gold Coast. But yeah, there's some nice little gyms that you can go for bike rides and go to the beach and just relax and take your mind away from a few things.
Absolutely. I guess one last topic is looking back on your career. What is your personal highlight of your career?
Personal highlight would it'd be obviously playing the first game. Like that's a real highlight for me because
and what a game!
yeah, it was. Yeah, looking back on now. The first game is obviously a huge one because it's the test of whether you've earned it or whether you can even make it, or let alone play one game. But for me, when I think about it now, it's all those little things that people don't see or won't see, where your form hasn't been where it needs to be, and you try and absolutely give it everything, and it's just not quite working. And then after, when you repeatedly do the things that it's going to get you out of that little rut, that form, and then when you put a few good games together, possibly a season or two, probably for the rest of your career, I think that's really important, because to be able to get to where you want to go, it's pretty difficult and hard, like most things in life where you want to get somewhere. But when it's very competitive within your teammates, but also out of an AFL competition, that I think it means a little bit more. And probably I've had a few of them in my career where I didn't really know if I belonged, but being able to do the work and having the support, that probably just makes it that much more special than just playing a game. Just being that resilience of actually that you actually do belong, and there's a reason why that you got picked.
Yep.
So there's probably something behind that.